Hey folks, this is the TEAC X-1000R AutoReverse reel-to-reel tape deck. This one is in the black finish and it's excellent to near mint, really in every way. It's a beautiful deck. Only things I could think to call out, there is a scratch at the back, the bottom of the back below the control panel, not anywhere you can see it. The rest of the case is beautiful, excellent near mint condition. On the face of the unit, can't really see it in the lighting now, but there's a very light scratch there, a little rubbing right here. Overall, excellent deck. Really good looking. So this one has been fully and lovingly restored by me. So fully detailed inside and out. It's going to look and feel practically like a new deck, and we'll get into a lot of what I did a little bit later. So just a little bit about what I like so much about the TEAC X-1000R. So first, the AutoReverse feature, it plays and records in both directions. So most AutoReverse decks will play in two directions but only record in one. Because this does have all functions in both directions, you never have to flip the tape. So basically you load your tape, supply here, take up reel there. You can play from front to back, you can play continuous loop depending on these settings here, or just one direction in the tape. So that's a nice feature, and so you get all the convenience plus the sound quality in both directions. And there are 6 tape heads in order to accomplish that, which when we get into the alignment, you'll see that adds considerably to the alignment effort, but definitely worth doing. The second is all the tape controls. So this has a number of things. One is it has dual capstan for excellent not only excellent speed control, but very good tape handling, and maintains very accurate tension across the heads. Next is servo control. So these arms instruct the motors at which tension to maintain the tape. So when it's calibrated correctly, it's calibrated to 50 grams of tape tension, which is a nice low tension, which will give you excellent audio performance, but also make your heads last a long time, so it minimizes head wear. And just a note, there's this tool. This is called tensilometer, and it's absolutely essential to get your tape tension correct on these decks. The next thing I love is the real-time counter, which is here. So hours, minutes, seconds. And you get 2 memory positions. So you get a 0 position and then you get a Q position. They can be set anywhere on the tape. And then when you're using the deck, at any point you can search to the Q position or search to 0, which is really nice convenience feature. For instance, let me just hit search to Q right now. I'd set a Q point or a little bit earlier, so it'll just move to that as we're going along. And you know, and finally, the sound quality of this deck is phenomenal, up there with the best reel-to-reel decks. It's from, say, early to mid '80s, which is really a good time period because you know, your electronics had developed a little further than most reel-to-reel decks that are from the '60s or '70s. Just not quite that level of reliability. Also, you get with this one, you get the computer control of the tape handling, which is once you experience that and use it on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to go back. So, for instance, let's do search to 0 and then play, and then it'll start when it gets there. You can see that the forward and rewind speeds are nice and fast. So this the capstan and pinch roll assembly were fully restored. So I take that mechanism out of the deck entirely and bring it to the bench, disassemble it, clean it thoroughly, and then lubricate it, and then install it back in the deck. So just a note, the point of this demo is not really to demo the sound quality. We'll just search to 0 again, because you are listening through my camera microphone. But just rest assured the sound quality of this is absolutely phenomenal. Next, the belt was replaced with a new correctly sized belt. And when we get to that point, this is where, say, a deck, typically a service deck, this is where the service typically stops. And also, as I explained, this mechanism being taken out and really thoroughly addressed. More typically, you know, a loop WD-40 or something will be sprayed just to free that mechanism up, the belt to be changed, maybe spray the potentiometers here, and that's about it. So you'll see that my restoration goes way beyond that. So all the switches and potentiometers are flush with deoxit 3 times, twice one day, and then finally the next day before it's put together. So to give excellent performance. In order to really get at these well, I do take the face of the unit off the deck. That also allows me to remove, and then I disassemble the control panel. So all these switches, you know, have been thoroughly cleaned, and so just the feel and the performance is just wonderful. It's in my mind, it's really worth doing. All the tape transport, all of this is of course removed and thoroughly cleaned and lubricated at that same point as well. Well as the tape heads, of course, are cleaned and demagnetized. Then once we get things back together, we get into some of the calibration. So we talked about the tape tension with the gauge I showed you. Also the brake torques are checked. Then the forward winds, and just before we're going to get to the wind speed, there are some trimmers located on the board near the top of the deck for the playback and forward and reverse play tensions, as well as the speed. And those trimmers can be a little bit problematic. They're carbon trimmers up near the top of the deck, near this vent. So I replaced those with modern sealed Cermet type trimmers, just a little, you know, additional reliability there. So then the forward speed is adjusted using the oscilloscope. So as you saw, it's nice and fast. It's about 1.5 minutes from one end of the tape to the other end on the large sized reels. Then you get the tape path alignments in terms of the reel table height, any adjustments that are necessary to the tension arm heights. All the tape head alignments are checked. They're tweaked as needed. It's rarely needed and really not advised unless it is needed. On this deck, all the tape head alignments were spot on. Then you get into the play speed, so high and low. That's done with a calibration tape. So it's necessary to use 2 calibration tapes to do a deck. One is for speed and wow and flutter check. The other one is for your playback frequency response, which we'll get into in just a moment. But the tape speed, that's adjusted, and then finally at this point now you've done all your calibrations, all your mechanical issues have been addressed, your calibrations have been done, all for your tape handling, servo adjustment, tension, and so forth, and then you check your wow and flutter. And if the deck's in great shape and you've done a good job, you see a good number there. This one checked at 0.038%, well below the spec of 0.1% for wow and flutter. Then we get into all the audio calibrations. So first is playback. You have your playback MRL, magnetic reference laboratory tape. This is the modern standard and reference for aligning reel-to-reel decks, whether they're pro or consumer. So after all that, this one checked out to plus minus 1.7 dB on its playback frequency response. So excellent response from 30 to 20 kilohertz. That also indicates that the tape heads are in really good condition, and the wear is low in this deck. So its tape heads are in nice shape, and that performance does prove it. The frequency response is calibrated at high speed as well as low speed, and in forward and reverse. So this is where forward and reverse start to add considerably to the effort for calibrating the deck. But it's important to get your to really make sure your audio performance is excellent, the best it can be. Then you get into your record calibration. So your bias, your level, and frequency response. I calibrate them all using this tape, ATR Magnetics MDS 36. I find this a really good modern, nice performing tape. There's also tapes available from RTM. If you calibrate to this tape, you'll find you can record well on those. It'll record, to spec on those tapes as well. Also, if you have some older tapes in good condition, particularly the Maxell, that'll also record to the correct frequency response. So, good selection of tapes. When you get into the vintage tapes, outside of the Maxell brand, some of them can be problematic with either excessive, kind of leaving a lot of excessive dirt, or in the worst case, they get sticky and then they're unusable. But it's nice that modern, really good quality tapes are available. And so all that's done, forward and reverse, and the spec for that came to plus 1.5 minus 0.5 dB, so excellent response, and that's to the spec of plus minus 3 dB, so well within spec. Obviously azimuth and other things are set while we're doing that. That's just the kind of the tilt of the tape head. Make sure that the two channels are in phase. And finally, is when final calibration is the DBX. So your encoder and decoder levels, I've set those as well. The DBX spec is twice as wide. You lose a little frequency response with using DBX, although it does reduce your noise floor to the point at which you really can't hear any noise at all. But you lose some frequency response. I typically don't use it because the noise floor in this deck is so low to begin with that I don't feel it's necessarily needed. But this one definitely did calibrate well. In fact, the DBX frequency response is within plus minus 3 dB, which is your standard frequency response, so really, really quite good. So with that, let's just do a quick demo. I know we're getting on a bit here. So you have forward play. And let's do this. So this is set to loop back from reverse back to forward. Let's go to reverse play, and then you can listen to it go from reverse back to forward. So the deck uses the zero position on the tape to go from reverse back to forward. And it uses let's just fast forward. In fact, let's search to Q, and then we'll play at the Q point. At any point when you press search to Q or search to zero, you could press your play or reverse play, and then once it gets to that point, it will play. So we'll let it do that. Okay. Also, you can search to zero and play. You also could do it in the reverse direction. I was going to mention is, so then going from forward to reverse, you apply this a little aluminum strip to the end of the tape, and this pivot pin here senses that, and that's how you go from forward to reverse. And you know, you have your settings here for how you want to play. Okay, let's search to 0 and just let it go there. Let's do just a really quick record demo here. Let me just get my source queued up. First, let's put it on source, and this is what we'll so that's what we're going to record. In order to record, first you press the rec mode button, okay, and that's just a safety feature so you don't accidentally record. Then press record and pause at the same time, and make sure that the record button is solid red. If it's still blinking, you haven't pressed those together. At this point, we can let's put it in tape. So we're going to listen to what's recorded on the tape, and press play, and get our source going. So now we're actually listening to what's being recorded. Levels, I already set those. And in that position, we're listening to the source. Okay. So just a quick demo there. So let's search to 0. Let's disarm our record. Just do search to 0, play. And in this case, we'll just listen to what we recorded. And so you could record, if you use AutoReverse while you're recording, you can record from the forward, all from forward, and then it will reverse automatically, and you can record in reverse. It won't record, it won't then just keep going, like say if you left it to record something, it won't then just go back to forward and keep recording over what you did, but it will record from forward back to reverse. One other neat feature, let's say if you're fast forward, lift this and you can hear obviously the fast version of what's on the tape. When you drop that, like we'll drop that at 4 something, 4:20ish. Now if I hit search to cue, the deck will go to that point. I don't know if I mentioned electromagnetic braking, but you could see as the unit was going from forward to reverse, it slows down and changes direction, stops, whatever, really without using your applying your brakes until the very end. So that just happened to be the point at which I dropped the cue lever. So that's, you can listen for a gap between the song and let down the lever when you hear that gap, and then when you use search to cue, you can get to that point on the tape. So nice, convenient. It's really a convenience feature. When you have a large reel on this, you get an hour and a half in each direction. So it's quite a bit of time to go through if you're searching for something. And that's at the high speed. At the low speed, you get 3 hours per side. So that's a total of 6 hours using the large tapes. And the smaller tapes have half the quantity of tape on that, so half the amount of time. So with that, let's wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly really enjoyed working on this deck, and have had it in my system now for about a month and a half. Just wonderful deck to use, both playing and recording. So take care. Have a great day.